So we are here with Nate Mercereau, and this is for Modern Frequency. How are you today?
I'm doing great.
Good. Where are you right now?
I'm in my studio at my house.
Nice. We're about in California?
Yeah, I live in Los Angeles, in part of town called Tahunga. It's kind of near the mountains.
Nice. Is that
Yeah,
where you get
music.
your inspiration from for your music?
Oh, I was also going to say before I
Oh,
get to that,
go
excuse
ahead.
my voice. I'm getting over a cold right now.
Oh,
But
you're fine. You're fine.
yeah, but yeah, inspiration definitely comes from natural elements for sure. Yeah.
Um, where do you think you get that creative spark from? I mean, just is it your environment? Is it a mix of things?
Yes. Yeah. Uh, I would consider music a place of infinite possibility and exploration. So for me, like making music and creating new music and seeking music to listen to, even it's like a process of exploration and finding new territory. So the inspiration to create music also comes from that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Um, the recording techniques behind Excellent Traveler sound like very nature-esque, and it sounds like a movie soundtrack almost.
Hmm.
What's the meaning behind the title, and did you put any new recording techniques behind this project that you never did before?
Yes. So first, the title "Excellent Traveler." It came to me when I was actually traveling. I was coming home from Europe, and I felt like it was going really well. I felt like I had a feeling of like, I'm pretty good at traveling, like just actually the physical act of doing it. I just thought of the phrase excellent traveler. I just thought it sounded nice. I just liked the way that sounded. And then I thought about what would it be like to make an album, or kind of have that be a title for an album. What could that be? And it was like, traveling emotionally as well as physically. So it's like it became this phrase that I kind of was using almost aspirationally, even when the traveling was relatively difficult. It was like it was just a nice phrase that kind of stuck with me through the process of making the album. And of course, I made the record in a lot of different locations too.
Oh,
So
right.
it's kind of related to it in that sense as well. And as far as recording techniques, um, the record it's my version of a solo guitar album. So it's based on guitar playing, but also a specific kind of sampling technique that I've been, working with and kind of building up and creating. And it's something that I do where I play with groups, or if I go to an environment, or just kind of somewhere, even in my house, I have the ability to sample the environment and then immediately map that sound to the fretboard of the guitar. So let's say I'm playing live with Andre 3000 and Carlos Nino and Surya Bonifaciana and D'Anthony Parks, that quintet that we've been doing for New Blue Sun. I have a microphone. I can capture as long as I want, but let's say it's 3 seconds, and I can map that 3 seconds across the fretboard and play it high, like almost like it sounds fast forward. I could play it low, so it sounds like it's kind of slowed down and spread out, or I could play a chord with it and it kind of starts cascading over itself, and it creates a lot of different unique sounds. So it's kind of like creating new instruments to be, well, it's all through the guitar, but I consider them each their own specific almost instrument, so it's like creating a new sound for every moment, and like playing life or playing reality. So
That's
the
amazing.
sampling technique is a huge part of Excellent Traveler.
Well, sure, sure, sure. That's amazing that you do it like that. That's so cool.
Yeah, it feels like a very evergreen technique, because if I'm in environments that I'm inspired by and around people that I'm inspired by, there's always new things to be happening. So the record is kind of like trying to capture or share a version of that. There was so much music made throughout the process of this album, but this felt like a representation. I'm pointing over here. I'm actually pointing the album, but like it feels like a representation of what that process has been like for the last year and a half or so.
It's amazing that you're doing something completely different from the norm right now, from the mainstream, anyways, because everything's very pop and auto tune. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I would give yourself a pat in the back, really.
I'm just following where my interests are leading, and those lead me to a lot of different places, and this is kind of where I'm at now. So yeah.
Sure, sure, cool. You mentioned Andre 3000. What's it like to work with him?
It's great. He's very exploratory, curious, open person. And so I feel like with any like real collaboration with people you can get really involved with, there's kind of like a energetic resonance thing that kind of brings you together. And I felt that with him and the whole group that we tour with, and also everybody in that group individually. We all make records together too. Uh, so yeah, but you know, creating with Andre has been expansive for sure. And he was always very supportive of this idea of like me making more music with our music. Because it can be kind of off-putting to people at first to be like, hey, I'm going to sample you and I'm going to make a bunch of more music based off of a sample of a moment of our creation. Uh, so it most people came around to it once it actually happened, or we were doing it live together. But sometimes the explanation of it can be a little bit like, what are you doing? And then it when it came together, like Andre was just always down with that. We have a lot of conversations about like what's next for music technology and instruments
Right.
and stuff like that. So when I brought this up to him, he was pretty much immediately like, absolutely, man. And also it happens on New Blue Sun. There's like live sampling happens on that record as well. So he's just always been down and into it. So yeah.
What do you think is next for music technology after, I mean, you're doing it now, really. This is the future of music, I think.
Well, what's next? I can't really say. I go into my own imagination and think about what I'd like to do, and I think about sampling technology or like the way that like an instrument might be able to like get to know me as I get to know it. Like, or like I could think very far in the future. I was at a talk that a musician named Yasos was giving, and he was talking about AI and music, and he said something that really stuck with me. He was like, "Oh, I'm so into it. He's like, I'm so excited about AI. I can imagine showing up to a concert with no instruments and then just thinking of the music and have it immediately blasted out through the speakers." And I was like, "Yeah, man, like that's totally like on the path of what could be possible one day." And like it's not so different than what is already happening, like, but it would take away the barriers of even learning an instrument. It would just be the kind of like your like imagination would be directly linked to some type of like sharing system, whether it's like a speaker or whatever happens to be available at the time in the future where that thing is. There's going to be a lot of things on the way to that as well. But I just get excited about things that close the gap between feeling and the expression and the sound. If it's all kind of there, like that type of stuff is generally very exciting to me.
Very interesting. Um, what's it like winning a Grammy?
Uh,
Is it a surreal moment or do you not care?
well, I'm not really in one camp or the other. I have a lot of feelings about it, but what I think my overwhelming one is like winning a Grammy is kind of like here's what this group of people who have deemed themselves to be important think of what you've done. And it's like that's cool. Like I appreciate it. And it also doesn't define me in that way. It's like I think it was surreal in the sense that maybe I grew up like being aware of the Grammys. And then they're like, okay, now you have one. And you're like, wow, I used to watch this on TV when I was a kid, and now I'm here. And it's like, okay. And it's happened for me relating to records that I've created with and for other artists. Um, so I guess yeah, I'm into it. It's also not that it doesn't define the way I consider myself as a musician or a creative person. It's just kind of a thing that can happen,
Yeah,
occasionally. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I agree. You also work with Jay-Z and John Legend. How are those experiences like?
Working on that Jay-Z record was distant. I knew he was in the other room. This was at a point in my musical life where I was doing a lot of sample replaying and recreation and also expanding on samples. So that record was kind of already completed. And then I was working with my friend Steve Wireman uh, with No ID, the producer of that album at the time. And we were kind of functioning as like an in-house band, like where he would send us a beat and be like, hey, this is kind of what we're doing. Can you expand on this as if you were the band and making more of this sample than is currently there? So we kind of added to things that way and would send it back to the other room. And that's kind of how I ended up on that record. Um,
What record was that, if you don't mind me?
it's called 444.
Oh, his latest one. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Gotcha. It was the
Yeah.
most recent one, I should
Yeah.
say.
That was like, yeah, I kind of forgot what year it was, but it was a time in my life when I was doing that like relatively early on in my recording career. And then John Legend, I was working with Ricky Reed at the time, and we were working closely, me and Ricky, on a lot of different projects for a lot of different artists as producers and writers. And John Legend was one of those people. He came in, we played him a piece of music that I had created at my friend's studio in 29 Palms. Shout out to Rich and Dana. And it was just a piece of music that we played for him, and he's like, I like this one. And so he wrote a piece of music. He wrote his lyrics and words with Ricky and Teddy Geiger to that piece of music while I was there contributing as well. And I think a bit of rearrangement of the actual music happened as well, and some additions as well as that. But it kind of happened very quickly. He came in, heard some music that I had made, and then did his thing, and then we built a bit more around it. There you have it. It kind of all happened within like a couple of hours. It's very fast.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Uh, you don't really get intimidated in front of people then, do you? Those
Uh,
stars.
no, not really.
Because
Yeah,
you're just doing your job, really. That's
I just feel like so are they too. Like we're all kind of trying to come together and create something that we're excited about. So I don't really feel intimidation in that way. I do feel excitement sometimes. Like, when Carlos and Andre were first getting together, and I had been working closely with Carlos, he was like, hey, I'm starting to, make some music with this guy. Do you want to come around? That was exciting, for sure. But I do feel like intimidation is not really there for me. It's different feelings than that. Yeah.
you're signed to Jack White's record label right now, Third Man Records.
Yes, this is the first record I've done with Third Man. Yeah.
How did you get signed? Did he approach you personally or?
No, not personally. Actually, a friend named Luke Schneider, who has also released records on Third Man. He's an amazing pedal steel player, and he makes radical records. We played a concert in Los Angeles, this event called Listening to Music in the Daylight Under a Tree, which is put on by Leading Records, and it's exactly what it sounds like. We're playing outside, and I was playing with Surya Bonifaciana, Carlos Nino, because we have a trio together.
Mhm.
We were doing our record release. Luke was playing before us. We just had this like mutual appreciation moment that happened very quickly. And he was like, hey man, if you ever have any music you want to put out, like I'm friends with the guys at Third Man. And I was like, oh, they've been on my radar. I like what they do. I sent Luke the record. He sent it to them. And pretty quickly we had a dialogue going. And we happened to be going out there with the Andre group as well to play at the Blue Room. So it just kind of was this thing that like came together in a great way. And they were down. They understood the record very immediately, and yeah, it just felt good. So we're like, let's make this happen. So here we are, and it was awesome.
Very cool. When was this? Was this recent?
Yes, yeah. I mean, it all kind of happened within the last like 6, 7, maybe 8 months or so. I can't quite remember the exact timeline, but that sounds about right. It all kind of took shape at the beginning of this year, and then kind of ramped up to now. And
Yeah.
then I did meet Jack White because he came to our concert at the Blue Room, which is his venue at Third Man Record Spot in Nashville, and he was super kind, super rad, and just very cool. So yeah,
And what a talent he is. Oh my God.
yes, and to also see what he's put together with the label and the way they press their own records and they have their own venue and just the kind of way that he's put his resources into things that create a lot more creativity,
Mhm.
expanded my interest and respect for him. So yeah,
Very nice. How does your music translate in front of live audiences? How does the live audience react to your music?
yeah, I mean everybody's got their own experience, and I it's an interesting question because I've kind of started thinking about just letting go of judgment completely when I
Hmm.
play live. It's like I show up, I bring my whole life to that moment. Everybody I'm playing with also does that, and we create for that moment with those people something. And it's like my experience of it can be just as wide ranging as the experience of my entire life. So, like when I'm there, why would I judge my whole life? Like I'm just going to let it happen and kind of let it be in the flow of what life is like, which is just like completely wide ranging, incredible experiences. So I tend to enjoy it, even in that context, and I think people do too. But I leave room for anybody to have any type of experience relating to it, and myself too, without judgment. Because sometimes I'll have a concert or I'll play a concert and I'll be feeling a type of way as a result of any number of things in my life, and then at the end of it, I'll just be like, man, for whatever reason, I'm just not feeling it. And then someone might come up to me and be like, that's my favorite thing I've ever seen of yours. And that could also go both ways where I might feel a certain way and there might not be as much response from people, but it's kind of all okay. Everybody's allowed to have their own experience. And
Sure.
yeah,
That's interesting, and that was well put too. What's next for you? Are you still on tour with Andre 3000 or no?
I am. Yeah, there's a fall tour happening right now. I'm doing some select dates. I'm gonna meet up with them in Portland in a few days, and then we're gonna do a run from Chicago, Detroit, New York, and so I'm still with that group, and also doing a few of my own dates in December with a
Oh,
trio,
cool.
but mostly Southern California.
Are you gonna ever come to the East Coast?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I'm sorting out how to do that next year. I'm definitely gonna play at the Third Man locations. So it's kind of in the works right now, but there's going to be some concerts relating to Excellent Traveler next year. And so what I'm going to do for the shows live, excuse me, what I'm going to do for the live shows for Excellent Traveler is bring the actual process of how the record was made to each venue, meaning like I'll be live sampling the audience. There might be some interaction. I'm going to be live sampling the group. I might live sample the city. No, sorry, not live sample. I might collect some samples on my way to the concert, of like places in each town and make each concert this like, very specific experience for each place that I'm at. And there'll be improvised pieces. There'll be like kind of spontaneously created things. There'll also be references to the album. So it's going to be a combination of all that, for the live shows.
That is really cool, and I'm quite jealous that you have that creation about you. That's so innovative. It's so cool. I love it. I love
Oh,
it.
right on, dude. Right on.
So, thank you for your time, Nate. I appreciate it, and I
Yeah.
hope to see you shortly soon on the East Coast on tour. That'll be great.
Yeah. Wonderful. It'd be great to meet in person. And thanks for taking the time to do this. It's great.
Thank you.